So, welcome to this webinar in which I want to show you something I'm really excited about because I've been working on this for a while, and this is something I have never presented, I have never done. And yeah, it kind of feels like something really important, potentially really transformational, and that's why I want to share it with you. If this is the first time we are meeting, my name is Marina Stoichkova. I've been working with astrology for 11 years already. I have also many other interests like psychology, GSR, which is a technique that allows you to work with your subconscious and to transform your energies, and also many other psychological, spiritual, and all kinds of interesting stuff that we can explore. Today's topic is very special. It's about exploring our flow of life with astrology. And this is something extremely beneficial, something I have never seen presented in this way. Yeah, that's why I'm also so excited. How are we exploring? How are we going to explore this development or dynamic of our flow of life? We will use a method which is called secondary progressions. This is a well-known astrology method which has proven to work in an amazing way. So this isn't anything new. This isn't any experiment. It does work. What does this method represent? So basically, when we are born, at the moment when we take our first breath, the position of the planets, according to the Earth, represents our natal chart. So basically, our natal chart is like a picture of the sky for the moment when we were born. And this represents the seeds of our life, what we are going to experience in terms of processes. It describes our qualities, our characteristics, different life areas. So it affects us in many ways. But as we know, life doesn't stop. Life keeps moving on and on. And of course, after we were born, the planets have kept moving, and they keep moving, and they will hopefully keep moving. And what we do is we can explore this ongoing movement of the planets after we were born. And this method is called progression. So basically, we explore what has happened after we were born, and we connect it then to our life in terms of dynamics. The principle is that 1 day equals 1 year. In other words, the shifts in the planets, their aspects, their positions, like anything that happens 1 day after we were born, is describing processes that we will go through when we are 1 year old. On the 10th day after our birth, like what has actually happened in the sky, positions of planets and so on, will represent a process that we will go through when we are 10 years old. So again, 1 day equals 1 year. And this isn't an experiment. So I'm not saying anything new here. This is a well-known method. It works in an amazing way. And what we will do is we will explore 100 days after we were born. In other words, also 100 years of our life. I'm not saying our whole life because we might live more than 100 years. We don't know this. And what is the point here? The point is that those progressions, so those shifts that happen after we were born, they are adding like additional stages, additional layers to our main experience. And they add additional layers on top of our natal chart. So it shows like where we are going, what is the development, which are the main focuses. That's why we explore this method. Something really important here. Here, our focus is not to predict concrete events that may happen, for example, when we are 70 years old, or to predict when we will die, or anything like that. The main idea is to get a sense of this energy, to understand the principle of the processes we are going through and the qualities and all of that. Because after that, we can change the material form. So in other words, the concrete events or what happens in the outside world in your life, this is the external layer. And this isn't something that is 100% predefined. And the more aware we are, it's like the more developed we are on a conscious level, the more we can work with those energies and change the material form through which they will be experienced. In other words, we have more control over our own life. And one of the Hermetic principles, the second one, says, as above, so below. This is a very popular spiritual principle. And the main idea is that the cosmos represents also what's happening inside of us, within us. But think from this perspective. If the progressions have already happened, for example, let's say that now you are 40 years old. So those type of processes and shifts, it's like the seed for this was put or planted 40 days after you were born. And this also means that we can connect to those energies in a different way. It's like on certain level, they have already manifested. And here I have one hypothesis. So this is something that we will explore, we will observe, we will see. But if those changes have already happened on certain level above, okay, so it's the cosmos, the events, the planetary positions days after we were born, then it means that on certain level, this energy can already be accessible to us if we understand where it goes, how it develops. Here, I remembered one concept that I learned by John Kehoe. I think it was The Quantum Warrior. The book was called Quantum Warrior. And he is presenting this idea that we can kind of like navigate, or we can connect through different times, the past, the present, the future. And he suggested such idea. For example, if in the present you feel really challenged or there is something really difficult, try to kind of like go to the future, to connect to your future self. And from the future, you can look at this present situation, or you may try to send support to your present self. Or you can do it from the present towards the past and work with some kind of memories. This is an interesting concept. So many people are working with this. And if we apply this, so if we understand our progressions for 100 days or 100 years of our life, and we see where is this whole flow going, like what are the pivotal moments, what are the pivotal shifts, then we can also experiment and see if we can connect to those energies even at different times, kind of like work with this concept of John Kehoe. So in every case, the hypothesis, this is just a suggestion. So you don't have to do this, but it could be an interesting thing to experiment with. Okay, and yeah, this idea is very important, that those energies have already manifested on certain level after you were born. So they already exist. within you, in the cosmos, and who knows where else. And once we connect to this, once we understand this flow, again, we can use it like a guiding light. We can use it like, understanding what is the most important we need to learn, we need to embrace. It will become more clear when I show you the example I have prepared. A few notes. Here, we really need to avoid such labels or categories like good and bad. And I know we are tempted. And I know that, we often put things this way. Is this a good indication or is this a bad indication? Is this transit a good one or a bad one? This progression and so on. Try to get out of this out of this frame. Because first of all, it depends on the perspective from which you are exploring. So from a higher perspective, after all, everything is necessary. So I'm really avoiding this type of categorizing, like what is good and what is bad. If we are in alignment with the energy, nothing is bad. And as we will see, this process really allows you to feel life, how life is developing, how life is moving. I will share very quickly my own experience with this. When I was studying my own chart, my own progressions and how they develop, how they are developing, I found some kind of key indications. It's like a line that my chart is following. It was visible in the lunar cycles throughout my life. It was visible through as you will see, there are such life-defining aspects that are also extremely interesting. And when I saw, what is this general line in my life, it really helped me also to, not to get hooked or attached to some kind of short-term, maybe challenges or things that I don't understand or maybe I don't like. It's like when you can feel this most important process in your life, like where you are going, this really helps you also not to waste your energy, feelings, attention with things that really won't matter long term. So it's a really, really beneficial process. Okay, so I will share my screen in a moment. One more thing to add about the progressions. The progressions are adding additional layers. So in a moment, I will show you like which are the categories, like what are we exploring with those progressions. But whenever there is something new in progressions, so let's say that your sun is moving to a new sign, your sun is ingressing, let's say Capricorn or whatever. This doesn't mean that the energies before that should be cut out and you should throw them away and they disappear and you don't need them. Nothing disappears in astrology. We are adding more layers, but what was already there remains there. So we are not losing it. We just have the opportunity to add more and more and more. So those energies before that we had before, for example, let's say the sun was in Sagittarius, then it moves to Capricorn. The Sagittarius qualities are not supposed to disappear. You just need to build up the next layer, which is coming from Capricorn, let's say. So I will explain more with the example. As you will see, it's an interesting one. So, okay. So this is the report that we will use as an example. The lady that allowed us to use her chart, we will call her Liliana. So you will see what are the main points if you want to kind of like see this flow of your life through progressions. Which are the main things you need to pay attention to? This is, first of all, the dynamic of the astrology pattern. And I will explain in details each of those. So if you don't know what that is, you will know very soon. So the first thing is the dynamic of the astrology pattern. In other words, this is how the planets are positioned in the chart. Are they close to each other? Are they spread all over? And what is the dynamic? In a moment, I will illustrate. This dynamic of the astrology pattern is showing fundamental changes in the structure of your psyche. So are you supposed to become more concentrated, more focused, more organized, or are things kind of like spreading, there are different focuses. So there are many options. We need to explore each case individually, but this is one of the most fundamental things that define where your life is going and internally also how things develop. So yeah, this is one of the big ones. The other one is the dynamic of the elements and the modalities. Also foundational, which defines the energies and the qualities that you need to embrace throughout your life. And they change also during your lifetime. And how they will change is something very interesting. So in a moment, I will show you what kind of table we can make for this purpose. We are exploring also ingressions of the planets in signs. Basically, I already gave you an example. For example, in progressions, the sun is moving to a new sign. Those are long-term periods, usually, at least decades. Some of those changes can be for a lifetime. For example, if this is a social planet or an outer planet changing signs, then it may happen only once in your lifetime. And those shifts are showing you what else do you need to add, like what is like the new experience you will have in terms of concrete life areas. For example, your Venus is changing signs, so your relationships are changing, your needs in terms of love are changing. Or your Mars is ingressing into a new sign. Ingression means that the planet is moving to another sign. So if Mars is changing signs, then it changes the way you express your will. Very often, it's important also for people who have their own business, for example, or for career, and so on. Again, you will see how it works with our example. Also, ingressions of cusps of houses. Those are long-term changes that affect concrete areas of life, because the houses, they are the most like external layer of our experience. For example, we have houses related to money, we have houses related to career, houses related to relationships. So when the signs on those houses change, it changes the dynamic in this area of your life. So those are really concrete ones. Ingressions of planets in houses. The planets are kind of like our main energy, like not energy, it's like more like our main power, like where the planets are positioned in the chart. Those are the areas where you may have like more conscious control. It's like your energy there is kind of like is presented more, in other words. So when the planets move in different houses, you can also understand better how you can manage your own energy, like through what areas you can also, for example, benefit more, or where you can see more obvious results. So it's a really good one. Next, the lunar cycles. We start with the prenatal new moon. So basically, this is the new moon before you were born, and it's showing some kind of process that has started before. You might look into this as something coming from past lives or from the past, or as you wish. But the point is that you don't see, it's more like you see the consequences of this process that has started earlier. So that's why it's really important to look into it. After that, we look into the other lunar cycles in our life. Those cycles, they last approximately 30 years. So usually we have like 3 to 4 of those cycles in our lifetime. And they define like major topics for 30 years ahead, like what do you need to focus on, what do you need to develop, and also how it will manifest depending on the aspects that we will find. In addition to that, we can look at the other phases in the lunar cycles, like the full moons and the quarters. Here, the information is a lot, so I will try to really show you the logic. If it seems too much, that's because it really is too much. But I just want to show you like the full potential of what's possible, because those full moon and quarter phases, they are also very interesting. Basically, they define smaller periods, like 7-year periods, which is also like a meaningful period. It's not like, something that will pass in 2 months. So it makes sense to look into those. Next, we are looking at stationary phases. So each planet, except for the sun and the moon, can be either direct or retrograde. And at a certain point, those planets may change their directions. So those are pivotal moments in our lives when something drastically changes from the inside to the outside, or from the outside to the inside, depending on the shift of the direction. So we explore if there are such stationary phases in our progressions. Retrograde cycles. Each of the planets have retrograde, except again the sun and the moon. They have retrograde cycles, but we explore only if Mercury, Venus, and Mars are turning retrograde, because we can process and we can kind of like see the meaning of those cycles, especially for Mercury and for Venus. We don't do this with the social planets, the outer planets, because their retrograde cycles are extremely long. They are like 4 or 5 months. And this isn't something that we can process in one lifetime. So the retrograde cycles that make sense to explore are Mercury, Venus, and Mars. And those life-defining aspects, the last point, in progressions, you may have aspects, for example, let's say progressed in this chart, we will see there was progressed Pluto trining Mercury, which lasts for decades. I think it was for maybe 70 years or something like that. So those are aspects that really define your whole life, if you have such. Because again, they will last for decades. Sometimes it might be even during your whole life. So to know which are those aspects is extremely important, because those aspects, they will have a different status in your chart compared to any other aspect. So first, we will explore those categories separately. I will show you with this example how it looks like, how we interpret those changes. And after that is the even more interesting part. We will see the changes in chronological order. And that's when we will kind of like feel this flow of life, when we try to put them together to see, okay, this event happens, but almost at the same time, we also have another event shortly after that, the next one. So how does it look like together in one picture? Basically, that's what turns it into a flow. So that's the most interesting part. As you can see, we have a lot to cover, so it really is a lot of information. But if we really want to understand, life and the development in our life, well, that's what it takes. I think it's worth it. So let's start with looking at the natal chart of Liliana. This is the natal chart. So what is important here? We can see that this is a bow configuration. So that's actually the first thing we will explore. The configuration or pattern, it's the same thing, and how it changes during the life. And when I say during the life, I don't mean the whole life. As I said, I mean 100 years of the life we are exploring. We don't know how long this life will be. So it will be as long as it needs to be. But we will explore 100 years. So during those 100 years, we will see how the pattern will change. And it's in an interesting way. But before that, this is a bow configuration. It means that all of the planets are placed within half of the chart or close to it. In this case, it's a bit more than 180 degrees. The first planet is Saturn. The last planet is Neptune. What does this pattern bring? This pattern creates some kind of inner tension. So it can feel like something is creating this tension, like something is missing, something is not okay. Like usually those people are kind of like feeling something they need to fix or something is not comfortable for them. The main area of the stress is the middle area of the empty zone. In this case, it's seventh house. So we can say that the area of relationships, connections with other people can be problematic. That's what, at the same time, it's really important for the person. So she feels that something is not completely okay, but it needs to be fixed. It could be also an area of some kind of fears and worries. So overall, relationships are extremely important. At the same time, all of the planets except for Neptune are placed in the Eastern Hemisphere, the left one. This is the hemisphere related to our individuality. The South Node, which is also related to the past, is in first house. So for Lily, probably it's kind of easier to rely more on herself, to be more independent, or to do things her own way. But the North Node being in seventh house means that to learn to kind of like be more receptive towards other people, their feelings, their emotions, what's important for them. This is the lesson that she needs to learn. So basically, the area of relationships will play a major role. Potentially at first, probably it will be problematic. With time, it can kind of like develop more and more. Let's see how this pattern develops. And also for the bow configuration, there could be a feeling like something is missing, it's like one half is there, the other half is not there. So this configuration may bring this constant. People can be very efficient, by the way, with such configurations because they feel like they need to do something, they need to search for something, like it creates some kind of, constant inner impulse to search for something. Saturn and Neptune are really important in this configuration. Saturn is in 10th house, the first planet. So initially, things may start with maybe some kind of restrictions, some kind of, probably some kind of fear at the beginning of some kind of process, or also desire maybe to have some kind of control over things or over life. And where she needs to go, it's like this is the direction. It goes to Neptune, which resonates very well with the North Node. Basically, Neptune is the ruler of the North Node. So the focus is to go from the form, the shape, and the external towards the internal, the essence, and the meaning of things. That's a really important life direction, which will develop throughout the whole life. So initially, the focus might be more on the practical things, the obvious things, a bit more like rational perspective. And also how things look like, what is the shape of things, what is the material, maybe what is, their use and so on. But with time, she will develop, and she needs to move in this direction to pay more attention to the essence. What is the meaning? What is the value of something, which may not be so obvious, which may not be seen, you know, with a naked eye. It's something that she needs to learn to feel. And yeah, to value more those personal things that are not necessarily obvious to others. Let's see how the pattern develops during the years. Here, what are the options? We may have different options how this will develop. For some people, there could be different stages, like until certain age, we have one dynamic and tendency, then it changes to another, then another, and so on. But in Lily's case, the dynamic is very consistent, which is really rare. Actually, yeah, we can. Basically, that's how it looks like at the age of 90. But it might be, I want to show you, I want you to see how it changes in time. Let's look together. So this is the natal chart, 9070. Okay, as we saw, Saturn here, Neptune here, half of the chart includes the planet and another half is empty. And I will move the time with 1 year step. So look what happens. Here, the moon is really fast. It's always really fast. So we are not paying so much attention to the moon. Like the moon is crossing the whole wheel a couple of times in every chart, in every life. So that's not really a factor. We are looking at the other planets more. So look what is the dynamic. Look what happens. All of the planets are gathering closer, except for Saturn, which is staying behind. And as you will see, this is the tendency during the whole life. Again, in other charts, it will be different. Other charts may change a few times in different directions. For example, until a certain period, the energy is closing, like planets are gathering more. This is one dynamic. Or they are spreading, they're opening. This is another dynamic. And it's possible that this may change. So we really need to look at each chart. We can't know this in advance. Well, we might guess if we know, you know, the speed of the planets, but in every case, we need to check in order to see how it really looks. So again, the dynamic. Saturn is kind of like being more and more isolated on its own, and the other planets, the rest of the other 9 planets are getting closer and closer together. Well, except for the moon, which is circling all over as usual. And this is 100 years later. Again, we don't pay attention to the moon. Look at the other planets. So here is Saturn. Here is the first planet and the last planet. So look what a small area we have. And Saturn is on its own. This is a different type of configuration, which is called a fan configuration. So in this chart, we see like this clear shift from bow to fan. And the fan configuration is much more concentrated, much more focused. And Saturn is playing a crucial role here because Saturn is the handle. So from here, we should know that everything that triggers this Saturn in any predictive method will always play a more significant role than anything else. And the Saturn is becoming again more and more accentuated. So one of the topics in her life is to become more responsible, to have this inner foundation, you know, to learn to rely more on herself on an inner level. This need for stability becomes more and more important. So that's how we interpret the astrology pattern. Again, in this case, it's just one direction, but in your chart, it may change a few times or it may look in a different way. You need to explore this, but basically you check year after year and you want to find this dynamic. Okay. So here is where we start. Again, the bow. And then 100 years later, Saturn on its own. So it's a completely different configuration. Next point, the elements and the modalities. So as you can see here, we have a table. Don't be stressed. I will explain how we work with this. This is also one of the most interesting parts. And it's really worth it to look into this. Basically, this column here is showing the year. So we start from 1970. Here, for more clarity, I have also added the age. So 1970, the birth, 0. And after that, you can see. Then we have the 4 elements, fire, earth, air, water, and then the 3 modalities. And we explore how is this changing during the lifetime in progressions. This is so deep and so it reveals so much about your life dynamic that you may keep thinking and exploring and analyzing it for a really long time. We want to check how it changes because there are always changes. The question is in what direction, how often, what is the general dynamic? So when she was born, when Lily was born, there is 1 fire planet, 3 earth, 3 air, 3 water. Try to look first without looking at shorter periods. Just try to scan those 4 columns. Just try to scan them. And I will guide you because I have already looked at this for a long time and I'm already very familiar. The first I would look at is the fire. Look what's happening with the fire. So at the beginning, it's the element that is like the least expressed, only 1 planet. And then the tendency is that this element keeps being the least expressed. Okay, so 1 fire, then shortly after that, we have a long period with 0 fire, then a little bit fire, then even less fire, also a little bit, again less. So we see, okay, here around the age of 44, 45, we have more fire. So this is the first time when fire dominates. This is already telling you a lot that something major is changing around this time. Because for the first time, you have dominant fire element. And what is the fire about? Fire is about personal will. It's about doing things my own way. It's about, you know, actions, movement, dynamic, and so on. So until the age of 44, this element is not really expressed. It's like the least expressed. Then after the age of 44, the dynamic changes. So see here we have 4, 4, 3, 3, 3, 3. Then again, back to 2. Then again. But overall, if you look at the dynamic at the beginning, it's more like 0, 0, a little bit of 2, but then 1. So it's more like 0 and 1. Then after that, it changes more to 3 to 2. So overall, if you're just scanning and trying to see this long-term perspective, the tendency is that at the beginning, there is less fire. So less initiative, less of this, you know, impulsive energy, less of this dynamic or taking risks, or even fire is also related to enthusiasm. Like at the like, let's say until the age of 44, I think, this energy is not so expressed. After that, it's building up more. So this is important. Again, we are just scanning, seeing like the long-term nuances. what happens? Okay, let's look at the Earth. So at the beginning, we have 3 Earth planets. What is the Earth related to? The Earth is related to how grounded we are or we need to be, the connection with the material world, our ability to put things into a form, to materialize them, to stay connected to reality, basically. So at the beginning, we have lots of Earth energy, 3, then 4, 4. Then it's kind of like close to the middle. See, it's 2, 2, 3, 3. And again, you can look this year after year. Now I just want to show you like from an eagle eye how it looks like. So overall, it's around average level, let's say 2 to 3 most of the time, with some periods with more. Here, for example, we have more, we have 4, and again 4. Okay, for a little bit 5, 5. Then again, then here we have 6. So the Earth energy is more kind of like inconsistent, like it changes more often, and there are different dynamics. But there is no period when the Earth energy is missing. We can't say, I don't see, we don't have a period with 1 Earth planet or 0 Earth. Like it's at least 2, 3, 4, 5, for a few years, 6. So the Earth energy will always be important, at least on an average level, let's say. So this needs to stay grounded, connected to reality, and so on. The air energy. The air is 3 planets at the beginning, then it kind of tends to grow. See what happens, 3, 3, then 5, 5, 4, 4, 3. So the air energy is more expressed at the beginning. Then here around the age of 24, it goes lower. What is the air related to? It's related to communication, to connections, to certain flexibility, to ability to shift between one thing and another, multitasking, like to combine different things. Those are the qualities that the air brings us. So overall, at the beginning of the life, the air is more accentuated. So those qualities will be more expressed. With time, it tends to go lower. See what happens. So 3, then 2, 2 for a long time, a bit of 3, back 2, 2. So overall, this energy isn't growing. It kind of like becomes less on average. Again, for a long time, we have 2, 3, a little bit of 4. But as I said, the overall dynamic is decreasing. The water energy. The water energy is kind of stable at the beginning. So look, until the age of 5, it doesn't change. Then it increases a little bit. Then it drops. What is the water related to? Water is about how sensitive we are, how emotional we are, how much we are responding, you know, with our feelings. And I will tell you something interesting in a moment also about the elements. Overall, it tends to grow. Overall, it tends to grow. See here, it becomes 3, 3, 4, then 5, 4, 5. But around the age of 39, it gets slow. See, so we have 2, little bit of 3, but then it drops to 1. So see, what is the dynamic here? The water is becoming less and less until the age of 70, almost 70. So the water seems to be going lower. It means that the impact of those, you know, feelings, emotions, this type of energy won't be so kind of like defining. You know, the more she grows, the more time is passing, this energy will be less important. Interesting concept about the elements. If you look, and this is like a whole topic maybe for another webinar, but just to kind of like put it in the field. The 4 energies, earth, fire, air, and water, we can put them in order in terms of symbolically, very symbolically, how connected they are to the earth and to the sky, so to speak. And those are energies that symbolically, again, represent like different layers or even different worlds. The lowest one is the earth energy, the nearest one to the earth. After that is the water, the astral world. And if you think about it, even in the physical world, that's how it looks like. The earth is the lowest, then we have the rivers or the seas, which are kind of on top of the earth. Then we have the air energy, and then we have the fire. So the earth energy represents the material reality. The water represents the astral world, or also the feelings. The air energy represents the mental world, or also spiritual world. And the fire, it's like a representation of the light. So this is like really, really interesting. Depending on this balance of the elements, starting from your natal chart, but also through progressions, you can explore this dynamic, and you may see where is the direction you are going to, you need to follow. Do you need to kind of like get lower in terms of getting more connected to the earth? Or do you need to kind of like go closer, let's say, to the sky? Those are very symbolic representations, but those are not about good or bad. Like, to go lower, it doesn't mean that you are falling or it's a negative thing. It just means, do you need to work more on your connection closer to the earth, or do you need to go from the earth kind of like to rise above, to go to the higher levels? And as you can see, this dynamic may change. So I repeat, the lowest one is the earth, then water, then air, then the fire. And when you see this dynamic, you can understand, okay, now during this period in my life, my job is to get closer to the earth. For example, if the water energy increases or the earth energy increases, you need to kind of like get closer to the material world, to the practical things. If the air and the fire energy are increasing, then you need to kind of like detach more from the material world and focus more on the other energies, like things that are not necessarily so obvious and clear for the rational mind, let's say. So again, this is like a long topic. We may discuss it separately, but yeah, you can apply this using the same analysis. Cardinal fixed and mutable modalities. What are they related to? So the cardinal is the starting process, the initiating energy. So the beginning of the new season, like literally, during the year, that's the time when we have the cardinal signs, when we have a new season. So this is our ability to start new things. The fixed modality is about our ability to keep things, to maintain them. It's also connecting us more to our desires and what we want. The fixed modality is related to this. And the mutable, it's about kind of like paying attention to the external world, to the environment, and adapting to it. So it also represents the process of creating something. The cardinal energy starts the new process. Then the fixed energy needs to stabilize this new process, kind of like put it more into a form. And then the mutable energy is, okay, then I'm looking what happens in reality with this new process I have started. How do I need to adapt? What do I need to change? So depending on the balance of those modalities throughout your life, you can understand in which phase of your life you need to start more things, you need to initiate more things, or maybe you need to kind of like keep more what you already have, what you have built up, focus more on your desires, on, those inner stuff. That's the fixed energy. Or do you need to connect more to the environment, the external, and say, aha, okay, I started this, and that's the result it brings. So maybe I can change here and here. It's like this connection to the outside world comes more through the mutable energy. So in Lily's chart, we can see at the beginning, the mutable is the least expressed. So it's not so much about the external world and, kind of like checking how it works and adapting to it. That's not something that initially was so important. We can see here the dynamic overall, the cardinal energy dominates for a long time. See what happens. So 4, 3, 4, 5. So overall, something new is starting. It's some kind of new process that begins. See, 5, 5. Here we have 6. And the mutable is kind of like going lower. So overall, the dynamic is to initiate more, and it's kind of like the personal impulse rather than checking in so much with the environment or adapting to it. Let's see. Here we have, for example, a period with more focused fixed energy. Okay, here around the age of 40, from 39, see what happens. So the cardinal energy drops and the fixed energy increases. So they switch. So it means that this is a new phase in the life. It's not so much about initiating the things, it's more about stabilizing things and also focusing more on what do I want? What are my desires? It's the fixed energy. So that's an important shift. Around here, around the age of 39, it changes significantly. Okay. And overall, this kind of remains the tendency. Yeah, so the cardinal is overall less, the fixed is overall more during her life. Yeah, here the same. Again, if you can look into this year after year, now we want to see like the general line, how it develops, but it makes sense, you know, literally to check your age and see, okay, this year it's like this. The mutable energy also, you can notice that here, well, it's a bit later in life, let's say in her 70s, but the mutable energy increases more. See, so from 3, then it goes to 4, 4, 5, 4, 4, 5. So in this age, at this age, the environment will play more significant role than before that. And to kind of like check in, you know, what's the result from the things that I'm doing will become more important. Okay, so that's the general overview. But again, those are things that you can, once you have this table, you can work with this as long as you want. It's really, really insightful. Let's continue. And here, yeah, this is not the end. It's just until the age of 100. The ingressions of the planets in signs. So first, we will look into, as I said, category after category, and then we will look in this in a chronological order. So this will be the most interesting part, in which we will connect the different pieces. For now, we are just seeing, okay, we have this piece and the other and the other, and after that, we will put them in one whole puzzle or picture. Ingressions of the planets in signs. This means that the planets are moving in a new sign. And as I said, the qualities of the previous sign don't disappear. We just need to add the new ones. So Mercury in the natal chart is in Cancer. Mercury in Cancer tends to be more focused on, you know, more emotional when it comes to evaluating things or thinking or communicating. Mercury can take things more personally, but earlier in her life, so she was born 1970, so around the age of 4, Mercury is moving to Gemini, and until 1991, Mercury will be in this sign. Very strong sign for Mercury. So it means that the mind is becoming more active and more pragmatic. It's more evaluate. It's more like noticing things. You know, I have this, I have the other thing. It's like observing. Mercury in Gemini is also very curious. So usually this is a good position in terms of education, for example. At this age, the mind can be very active in terms of socializing, learning new things, kind of like, you know, there is a dynamic. After that, from 1991 until 2005, Mercury moves to Cancer. This changes the type of communication, the connection with the social circle. And here, for example, the personal connections will become more important during this period. The family may also have some kind of impact on the thoughts or the plans that the person has. And around such periods, so when the planets are having those ingressions, it's very often something changes also in our reality. With Mercury, either we change school if it's early in our life, or we change the social environment, or we move, we relocate, like the type of people we connect with changes, or at least the type of communication we need changes. And here around the age of, in her case, it's 21, so 1991, she's 21, the need for communication changes. So for a long time, for 20 years, there will be a higher need for more emotional communication, closer contacts. Mercury in Gemini just needs many connections. Mercury in Cancer needs less connections, but deeper ones, more meaningful ones. So during this age, this is kind of like the trend. After that, from 2005 until 2022, that's the age of 35, yes, until, I don't know, can't calculate it, but 17 years, Mercury will be in Leo. Mercury in Leo is not in a strong position compared to the other positions, because Mercury in Leo is more focused on the self rather than communication with others. So during this period, for Lily, it becomes more important to focus on how she thinks, what is her opinion, and to express it, and not necessarily to need this feedback from others or what they think, or are they agreeing, or that's not such a priority. When Mercury moves to Leo, the main thing she needs to learn is, what do I think, what's my opinion, and to express it. Again, around this time, there could be either like changing something related to the job, the type of work, the type of social contact. And during 2022, Mercury moves to Virgo, and it will stay there until the end of the 100 period we are exploring. So this is something specific, because as we will see later, Mercury will turn retrograde in Virgo. So once Mercury moves to Virgo, it's a topic that will be explored for decades and decades from different angles. That's very important. So the Virgo energy is essential. And if we go back to her natal chart, which is here, we will see that the South Node is in Virgo. So it means that she will have decades to process some kind of past experience. This isn't the fact that Mercury will turn retrograde in this sign means the same thing. So it's not a brand new energy for her, but she needs to kind of like learn a new lesson there. How to be practical, how to be rational, what's the importance of certain details, and all of those Virgo qualities. She needs to kind of like reconsider them, reevaluate them, maybe fix some kind of mistakes. Very interesting, yeah. In some charts, and this is one of those charts, you may see such a trend or a theme that the person kind of like gets a chance to fix some kind of mistakes, which is a very, in my opinion, very constructive thing. Lily has this opportunity in her life, generally speaking, because the South Node is in Virgo, and the ruler Mercury will get there 2022. So basically 2 years ago, Mercury has entered this sign, and it will stay there for decades, basically until the age of 100. And even after that, it will stay there. So she will have a long time to get through this energy one more time, actually a few more times, which means that she is given the chance to fix something that she was not able to fix, or to finish it, or to finish something that has been started before. That's a special type of chance that not all of us get. So it's a big one. It's a really big one. So after 2022, Mercury is there. Next, Venus. Venus in the natal chart is in Cancer. So more emotional, also more, is that? Yes, correct. Venus is in Cancer. Where were we? Here. Venus in Cancer is also more capricious, more sensitive, more tender, can take things more personally on an emotional level, wants someone to take care of her. So it's a specific type of feminine archetype. But around the age of 7, so from 77 until 2003, Venus is moving to Leo. So it changes the emotional expression, it changes the emotional need. So at this age, we can't talk about a new relationship, even though why not? At the age of 7, it could be about maybe new friendships, or, sometimes we have those, how do you say that? Well, early childhood attractions to other people, which is also normal. So it's possible. But we can't talk about, of course, marriage or, like something on this level. But the emotional expression changes. So during this time, she needs to learn to be more affirmative, to express her emotions more openly. Venus in Leo is a little bit more, like an actress, more theatrical. So she needs to learn to kind of like put those emotions out there, to express them. Usually also things like, for example, appearance, this type of more expressive feminine energy becomes more important. After that, from 2003 until 2030, Venus is moving to Virgo. Not an easy position for Venus. Venus doesn't feel really comfortable in this sign. So around this age, this is already an adult age, so she's 33 when Venus has moved to Virgo. Yeah, 33. Around this time, she needs to become more practical, more concrete, more grounded in terms of her needs for a partner, and generally her standards might change around this period. Usually here it may feel more like some kind of practical standards when choosing a partner. That emotionally you need to learn to be more, like concrete, organized, not necessarily, the Leo energy is more like expressive, more like, theatrical. Venus in Virgo is more closed. The emotions are a bit more, not exactly under control, but yeah, a bit more, not everything is put out there. So this period is not marked by such bright emotions. For example, before that, the emotional experiences are brighter. The needs for a partner also a brighter one, like prestigious partner maybe, or something like that. After that, during this phase, it's more about, the good qualities, like concrete stuff. It's making those personal choices from a more rational perspective. After that, the age of, the year 2030 until 2059, Venus is moving to Libra. Very important shift, because Venus in Libra is in her rulership sign. So for Venus, this will be a really comfortable period, a really different dynamic. It's related more to finding some balance, finding some peace, finding some harmony. And it's also on an internal level. So those topics are really important. Around those periods, again, when Venus is making the ingression, something concrete may change. New partner, new relationship, sometimes marriage. But we can't be 100% sure of some concrete events, but what we can be sure of is that the inner dynamic is changing. So this phase here is really important, Venus in Libra. After that, Venus will move to Scorpio from 2059 and will stay there. But as you will see, like there is something really interesting that happens later in life with Venus. So Venus is playing a really special role, especially in the last decades that we will explore. But overall, around this time, 2059, Venus moving to Scorpio is not in a comfortable position. So the emotions are becoming deeper, more intense. Also, she may become more attached to the people she loves or the things that she loves. Like Venus in Scorpio goes deeper in terms of the feelings and the attachments. Okay, next, the sun. The sun is moving to Cancer around the age of 12 and will stay there for 30 years. So after the sun moves to a new sign, it always stays there for 30 years. This is the most predictable thing in progressions. You can always be sure that the sun stays in one sign for 30 years. So initially she has the Gemini qualities, but after that, for 30 years, she needs to learn to be more of a Cancer on top of the Gemini. So to pay more attention to her feelings, family can play a more significant role. Cancer can be also kind of like more introverted, more focused on the inner experiences and so on. But after that, from 2014, the sun is moving to Leo. And this is one of the brightest periods and phases because the sun is ruling the sign of Leo. So during those 30 years, almost 30 years, Lily needs to learn to be more confident, to express herself, to be more independent, to be more, to do more of the things that she wants, her desires. So, yeah, very, very significant shift. Pay attention. So her Mercury, her Venus, and her Sun are all moving to signs that they rule throughout her lifetime. Not all of us have this experience, far not all of us. So that's important. The inner planets, the Sun, Mercury, and Venus, they will get at a certain point for decades in signs that they are ruling. So that's a special type of opportunity. Around 2045, the sun is moving to Virgo. This is one of the most uncomfortable changes because the sun in Leo feels really bright, really impressive, and Virgo is more modest, more practical. So specifically for the sun, this is a more specific shift. It doesn't mean that this is a bad thing, but the focus is different from I'm the most important, I'm the leader, I'm the greatest, which she should embrace during the sun in Leo, absolutely. After that, the focus shifts to how can I serve other people? How can I be useful for others? What meaningful can I do? More in service of others. And again, there isn't anything bad about this. As long as we are in alignment with it, we just know where to go. So this becomes the focus with the ingression of the sun in Virgo. Mars. Okay, we are almost over with ingressions of the planets. Mars has only two ingressions, sorry. In the natal chart, Mars is in Cancer, so Mars is in a weak sign. Cancer is not a strong position for Mars. Mars in Cancer can be more influenced by emotions, by our moods, by also sometimes the mother can play a significant role, or other women can motivate, what we do or what we don't do. So it's like this Mars in Cancer doesn't have like such a independent personal willpower. But around 2009, Mars is moving to Leo for almost 50 years. And this changes the dynamic. So during this time, Lily will have more chances to learn to do the things that she wants from a place of desire, not a place of changing moods or the environment or what other people say or what they want. It's more about what do I want. It's more affirmative. It's kind of like braver. It brings more confidence. So Mars in Leo is definitely stronger. It's a fire sign. So this is, I would say, quite productive period. After that, after 2056, Mars is moving to Virgo. As you will see, we will check in the timeline how this dynamic changes from Leo to Virgo. So again, the most interesting part is ahead of us. But Mars moving to Virgo becomes more patient, more organized. So not so much, oh, I want this, let's just go and do it. But it's more like, okay, let's plan this. What are the steps? Is it efficient? Is it meaningful? Is it needed? Mars in Leo's motivation is, if I do this, would this be like a good representation of myself? Like, would this be impressive? Would this be important? Mars in Leo has this motivation. Is this something important? That, for example, other people will admire me, or, my status will be higher, or I will be more respected. That's a healthy thing when Mars is in Leo. When Mars moves to Virgo, the focus is not so much about the bright, shiny things and, impressing. It's more about, what's the practical use of that? Is this meaningful? What are the benefits? Like very Virgo organized approach. And finally, Jupiter has only one ingression. And as you can see, we don't have any other ingressions. So Jupiter, Saturn, and the outer planets don't always change their sign positions in our progressions. For the outer planets, it's very rare. Saturn and Jupiter, not so rare. But as you can see in this chart, in Lily's chart, Saturn does not change signs. Saturn is very consistent, staying in Taurus. Jupiter is moving. Jupiter has some shifts from Libra to Scorpio around the age of, around 2037. When Jupiter moves signs, we change our goals. We change our priorities. We focus on different things. So it really changes our worldview, where we are moving, our perspective about the future. So if you happen to have a Jupiter ingression, it changes something on a deep level, because as you can see, those are not really common ingressions. So once it happens, usually it will affect you until the rest of your life, with some exceptions if Jupiter is turning retrograde, which here it will, I think, but it will not change signs. So anyway. Okay, let's continue. Cusps of houses. The ascendant is moving in Virgo and 7th house in Pisces around the 1985, so the age of 15. So the personal expression changes. The way she expresses changes. The relationships, the way she connects changes. Those are the signs of the lunar nodes. So we can say that some topics from the past can also be experienced more on the level of personal relationships. My expression, 1st house, and my relationships with others, 7th house. So that's an interesting point. During this period, so until 2022, many of the experiences related to how Lily expresses her, what actions she takes, what she is doing, and also what are the relationships she is building or the potential problems she has in those areas. This is some representation of things from the past, experiences from the past, but it's also in relation to her task, North Node, so what she needs to learn. Around 2022, so basically that's 2 years ago, the ascendant has moved to Libra and 7th house to Aries. So around this time, there is a pivotal change again in terms of self-expression and relationships. And here the topic, if here the focus is more on practical things or serving or helping, or with Pisces on the cusp of 7th, Sometimes there could be either more creative partners or sometimes more messy relationships, unclear things. Like with Pisces, you never know. After that, around 2022, the dynamic changes. Aries on the cusp of 7th house. So things become more dynamic. The type of partners she will need or the qualities they need to express also changes. She needs more, like more masculine energy. If Pisces is more like undefined, amorphic, chaotic, all the creative chaos, Aries is very masculine, you promise something, you do it. You don't wait. You are, this type of energy. That's something that she will need in her relationships until 2059. And her role is to embrace more the Libra qualities in her behavior. So because even if she's not a woman, even for a man, I would recommend focus more on your appearance, change something in your style. Very often people feel those needs naturally. So instead of, for example, dressing in more practical way or, the Virgo style, now she needs to embrace more the Libra style. If she is some kind of social figure or she works with people, I would definitely recommend her to change her style in communication, the image in front of others during this period. After that, 2059, the dynamic Scorpio and Taurus. So here we have more stability, the need for more stable relationships, more concrete things. So things are not so dynamic. And the Scorpio type of behavior, this will be around the age of 79. So it also resonates with the age usually, which means, like more consistent, more like less shifts, less, like drastic changes. It's the focus more on the inner energy. After that, 2nd house and 8th house. They are moving to Libra and Aries around 1992. So it means that there needs to be more focus on finding the balance, more focus on harmony in terms of the finances, the personal belongings, the money. After that, from 2025, 2nd house moves to Scorpio. And here, this is actually a fixed sign. So it can bring more stable tendencies in terms of money and finances. And for example, here, some kind of financial stuff can be really important. I would say some kind of on an energy level also. This is more like stronger attachment to the things that she has, to some kind of belongings. So yeah, this is the fixed energy. After that, after 2061, 2nd house moves to Sagittarius. So here, the dynamic is more kind of like easy or kind of like floating, or I would say with less effort. Sagittarius can bring more money with less effort. So here the most important is some kind of positive perspective, more optimism, more like, what she would like to experience, kind of like to connect to those in a, I would say, even when it comes to the mindset, it really changes around this age. After that, 3rd house and 9th house. This is the axis related to education or our thinking or potential travel, moving. So 1992, 3rd house moves to Scorpio, 9th house to Taurus. So something in her goals may change, something related to education can change. There might be opportunities for travel or for moving around this age, around this 1992. This time. The communication. So with Scorpio, the energy is more focused. So Scorpio has less contacts, but more intense ones. So that's the trend for years after that in terms of communication. And ninth house with Taurus, more stable, consistent goals, more concrete things that she needs to pursue during this time. From 2025 until 2059, third house is moving to Sagittarius, ninth to Gemini. So here the communication is more open. Here, more trust in people, more optimism. The long-term goals can become more dynamic. She may realize that she can focus on a few things, or maybe even many things at the same time. Something related to her interests can change around this time as well. And the last ingression of third house around 2059, third house is moving to Capricorn, ninth house to Cancer. So also the contacts become more closed, less contacts with more trusted people. So with Capricorn, you don't need many people. You need only a few, but those that you can trust and rely on. And the goals are more personally defined, by what I want, not so much about practical things, but it's more like, or Cancer can also be more passive. So it's possible that there aren't such big, huge goals. It's more about, appreciating maybe what I already have, which can make sense around the age of 80 also. The fourth and 10th house changes, they are really essential. This is the other cardinal axis, and it may represent changes of the dynamic in our home and our career, or generally where we are going socially in life. So fourth house moves to Sagittarius around 1989, 10th house to Gemini. So it could be some kind of shift in the family. Around the age of 9, we can talk about career changes, of course, but could be something new, some kind of new dynamic at home. After that, around 2022, fourth house moves to Capricorn. So the need for more stability at home. There could be also like the need to be more responsible or to have a more stable home. For example, with Sagittarius, you may travel, or you may have a few homes, or kind of like be like a citizen of the world. With Capricorn, usually you feel the need to have more like stable ground, your own place, and things like that. 10th house moving to Cancer. It could be that there aren't so many ambitions related to career. The main focus is to feel good about the thing that you are doing in your career. It could be more focused on taking care of others, or more, like the moon qualities could be expressed around this age and after that for years. So the comfort becomes more important around this time. 2055, the last ingression of fourth house, moving to Aquarius, 10th house to Leo. So here again, we go back to more dynamic at home. So something later in her life, there could be something more extraordinary, or a different lifestyle, or, something which is not so, so routine, I guess. And 10th house moving to Leo, there could be some kind of motivation and ambition to do something that she would like, something that would be an expression of herself. So I would say even maybe to be in some kind of leading position. So yeah, later in life, the age of, 75, she may feel this need also to be more of a leader. Fifth house, around 1985, moves to Capricorn. So in terms of romantic stuff, Capricorn doesn't bring fast changes or radical changes. It's more about something consistent. So new things don't come so easily. If something comes, it doesn't go away that easily as well. So in terms of personal life, there is a higher need for stability, but we remember Saturn is very important in this chart. So actually the position of Capricorn throughout the years, I mean the cusp, the house position, can also show us where the dynamic is, where the focus is. So yeah, here there is a lot of concentration. But around 2019, the dynamic changes. Fifth house moves to Aquarius, which means that personal, romantic interests, relationships, things related to hobbies, having fun, enjoying life. There is more freedom on this level. There is more openness. There is more variety. There is, like a need for some kind of excitement. So, yeah, this is usually making things more interesting. And after that, 2052, fifth house moves to Pisces, which for some kind of creative stuff can be a good position, also for more softness in the heart. It's like, allowing oneself to relax more or to have more fun or more pleasures. Like Pisces really loves those things. And the last ingression, sixth house and 12th house. Around 1984, sixth house moves to Aquarius and will be there until 2018. So work-wise, in terms of daily routines, there could be less stability, more dynamic, but also like ups and downs, inconsistency, especially if the job is not related to Aquarius. If it's something modern related to technology, something untraditional or freelance work or something like that, then Aquarius just represents this layer. After 2018, sixth house moves to Pisces. So around this time, there could be some kind of change also related to the work, the type of work, career, and so on. And either the work will become more creative, or also the atmosphere, the emotional atmosphere plays a significant role during this time when we have this ingression. And after 2052, the last ingression, sixth house moves to Aries. So the need to organize my daily routines, to define things, to be the leader in my everyday life, it becomes a major focus. And also there is more dynamic. So things are happening faster, and there is more need for independence. Ingressions of planets in houses. So here, the most important are those years, the exact years when certain planet is in conjunction with a cusp of a house. So we need to keep those in mind. Again, in the timeline, we will explore them again. But here, early in the life, around the age of 6 to 8, Saturn makes conjunction with the cusp of 10th. So around this age, usually it's either some kind of shift related to the family, it could be with the father, but it's usually not a really easy one. So it could be something early in childhood. And we remember that Saturn is basically the most important planet in the chart. Around the age of 2014, and after that, Saturn will be in 9th house during this time. So there is more focus on the worldview, where she's going to, some kind of goals. Saturn can kind of like put the focus there. Around 2014 until 2016, Saturn makes conjunction with the cusp of 9th house. So something really important can activate. Again, the goals, the long-term perspectives, like something needs to materialize in this area or to be restructured, to be reorganized. And the last Saturn conjunction around 2051, conjunction with the cusp of 8th house. It could be either some kind of big transformation. Sometimes it could be some kind of critical point which really changes the person. So it's an important one. And after that, Saturn will stay in 7th house until the rest of the period we are exploring. So it gets closer to the problematic area. Remember, at the beginning, we said 7th house is really important because this is the middle of the empty zone and the North Node is here. And later in life, basically Saturn is getting here, which means that there will be like a real concrete practical opportunity to work here, to work on this area. Okay, Pluto, again, those years, we just need to keep them in mind. Pluto on the cusp of second house, early also, around the age of 5, 6. This could be either something related to health or something related to more concrete things. After that, 2016-17, Pluto on the ascendant. Really important one that can open up something within the person, like she can express in a new way, like it's basically about a really, really deep personal transformation. After such ingression, you are not the same person anymore. So one of the most important ones. And then Pluto is moving the cusp of 12th house around 2048. Potentially also some kind of transformations. It could either be something related to health or the need to transform something, some kind of transformation on a psychological level also. For people who have some kind of spiritual interests, this is usually a very kind of like intense, kind of enlightening period, but not a simple one. Neptune, also earlier, around the age of 8, 7, 8, makes conjunction with the cusp of 4th, and it can bring also changes at home, with the environment, with the family. Something is changing. 2022-23, basically that's recently, Neptune on the cusp of 3rd house. It may either change, make things more unclear in terms of communication with people, or trigger an interest to communicate with different types of people, maybe more sensitive or more creative or intuitive, or maybe even with some spiritual interests also possible. Neptune is moving to the cusp of 2nd house after that, around 2058. So this can put some focus on the finances, the material stuff, the connection with the body, the connection with, for example, food, all of that. Uranus has also conjunction with the 2nd house during 1996, which might have played a significant role also, either health or money or more concrete things. Uranus on the ascendant, 1990, 2029, a really important one also. Some kind of radical shift in terms of behavior, expression, all of the, personal things. So also one of the really important phases. Uranus on the cusp of 12th around 2060 also marks some kind of psychologically important periods. So it could be either about insights or new interests or some kind of realizations, or something is changing on this kind of like more invisible level. Jupiter also has some kind of important shifts we see here. In a moment when we get to the timeline, you will see how many ingressions are happening basically around this age, around 6, 7, 8, like we have many of them overlapping. So this is an indication that something really changes in the life of the person and the dynamic. So we can see here 3rd house with Jupiter. This could be either some kind of success related to education or the environment, or some kind of recognition of her skills or knowledge. After that, during basically right now, 2023-24, Jupiter on the cusp of 2nd house. This can change her relationship with material stuff. Potentially could be beneficial for financial things, but also for transforming something on this level, the connection with money. And after that, Jupiter will move to 1st house, which is also an important ingression. Jupiter conjunct the ascendant, 2063, also a really important one, which can open up, and you will see, like in Lily's life, like the last few decades are opening some kind of, like a new door, like something different. It's a very, very specific case, you will see. With Mercury, those are the important years. So 1994, 2025, also Mercury is on the cusp of 12th house, which can trigger some kind of special interest, maybe in something more invisible, something more specific. Mercury, again, conjunction with the cusp of 12th house, because Mercury is slowing down because of the retrograde motion. Then with 8th house, 2068, and that's basically the last one. And 2041, Mars is having the only conjunction with the cusp of 8th house, but look for how many years. So that's one of the big ones. So for 15 years, Mars will be in conjunction with the cusp of 11th house. So this can transform her connection to collectives, to groups of people. It could be a period of some kind of leadership position. So this is one of the really, really important ones, because it will last for a long time. And also, one of the most impressive things in the chart, after 2055, until the end of the period, Venus will be on the ascendant, because they will have like a similar speed. So for many years, they will be together. So that's something really rare, which means that later in life, in the last decades of this period that we are exploring, it's a time when Lily may find more harmony, more balance, through some kind of transformation, because Venus will be in Scorpio. But this is a really, really interesting one. So for the lunar cycles, because we are already being together for a long time, I won't walk you through each phase. I will show you the calculations. Yeah, and probably in the timeline, we will try to put this together. So we have the lunar phases. So look how many are they. Let's go here. This is the starting point, the prenatal new moon. So the prenatal new moon is in Gemini. This means that this is an energy that she has already developed, those are qualities that already exist within her. And if we look at the aspects, the prenatal new moon, so here are the aspects. We have harmonious one with Venus, with Saturn, challenging aspect with Pluto, with Jupiter. So it's a mixture of indications, but overall we can see that the Venus qualities are developed with Venus. Saturn also, so there is some kind of sense of responsibility, or something that needs to be consistent, something that needs to be continued, and this is all like an ability that comes from the past. Here you can find the years when we are moving into a new quarter, so it defines like a new 7-year period. But I want to walk you through the new moons, because they are like the 30-year periods. They are the beginning of those periods which define, such an important direction in our life. So during 1994 is the first new moon after Lily was born in Cancer. So for 30 years after that, approximately, those qualities need to be developed. And we can see here there is a minor challenging aspect with Neptune, with Mercury, with Uranus. So it may require letting go of some kind of illusions. It might be related maybe even also to some kind of disappointments or the need to look at things from a different perspective. But Uranus and Pluto are very active. So there could be some kind of transformation, and overall on this social level, things can also play a major role. So the first new moon is in Cancer. Then, approximately 30 years later, which is right now, last year, there has been a new moon in Leo. And look how active this new moon is. Look how many aspects there are. And this is the theme for the next 30 years. The new moon in Leo is usually, putting the seeds of our own development, of kind of like working on our confidence, on our self-expression. So when there are so many aspects, it also allows the energy to develop in many ways, in different forms. So it's kind of like to be expressed more and more. So this is the next 30-year period, so from 2023. And the last one in this phase that we are exploring, here, 2053 is the next one in Virgo. So here the focus is different. Here the focus is more on practical things, on learning to be more organized, and for her, it's not learning from scratch because she already has those qualities, because the South Node was there. But it's about kind of like having the chance to do it in a new way, to do the old stuff in a new way. So that's a really important phase after 2053. Here, those are just a few, the stationary phases. Actually, that's a few, but it's not little. Like some people don't have such phases, but Lily has a few of those. During 1973, so basically shortly after she was born, Uranus turns direct, which means that she is born on a stationary Uranus. So Uranus also plays a significant role in the chart. And around those years, when we have stationary phases, we can, there's like a lot of intensity coming from this energy. So we always need to consider this. Uranus turning retrograde 73, Jupiter turning direct 84. It also changes the goals, the worldview. Around this age, it could be shifting the education. But around the shifts, around those years, it's a period of adaptation. So it could be more like, sometimes it could be stressful, but the dynamic changes. It's like after that, it's in a new direction. During 2031, Neptune turns direct, which means that a few years around this period, things might be more unclear, things might be more like, kind of floating, and that's fine. That's fine. The sensitivity and the emotionality are also really, really high around this time. And around 2051, Mercury turns retrograde. As we said, Mercury in Virgo. This also changes our focus. A retrograde cycle, so only Mercury. We have only Mercury retrograde from the cycles that we are exploring. As I said, those could be Mercury, Venus, or Mars, so only Mercury. The beginning of this phase is actually from 2032 when Mercury enters the shadow zone. So after this period, something after that will be repeated. So it doesn't mean that something will change on an external level, but Lily is entering into a phase of her life that after that will be kind of like revisit it. Maybe she will understand deeper. She will go back to, she will return to this point. So it's an important one. And 2051, Mercury turns retrograde. When Mercury turns retrograde in progressions, we focus more on the inner world. So we need less contact with other people. We need more connection with ourselves. So, for example, for writers, people who have this, like internal Mercury process, this is actually a really beneficial period. And Mercury turns direct after the period we are exploring. So after the age of 100. From the life-defining aspects. So actually here we have a few of those. This is the last section. I will get through this quicker so that we can move on to the timeline. But the most important, during the whole period, there is a big quintile, which is a creative aspect between Neptune and Mars. So during the whole time, this is an energy that will stay there. Let's go back to the natal chart and see how it looks. Neptune and Mars. Two planets which are not friends with each other because they are really different, but here they are connected with a harmonious aspect during the whole life. So Neptune and Mars. This is the ability to take action based on intuition, based on inner feelings, based on inner guidance. So that's a really special one. Neptune is the ruler of 8th house. This could be about some kind of interest also in things that are more invisible energies, or even potentially it could be related also to some kind of healing potential, or at least to kind of like sense energies more. So that's the most important aspect in this chart. For creative work, this is also an incredible one. For dancing, for what else? Yeah, anything that also she's doing with a feeling. So basically, the more she puts some kind of feeling into the things that she's doing, the better results she will get. And Mars is in Cancer, so overall, yeah, this is an interesting tendency, keeping in mind that Saturn is becoming so active. It means that, everything needs to be structured and in a form, but at the same time, the intuition shouldn't be suffocated, shouldn't be neglected. Actually, quite the opposite. It's like an interesting ability to mix both of them. Okay. Progressed Pluto trining Mercury until the age of 69. So for a huge period, we can say. Incredible aspect that makes the mind much deeper, more concentrated, able to focus on all of those things that are important. Also, basically to go deeper into things. So also a really important one. Pluto with Mars for a really long time, which can bring some kind of tension, some kind of, intensity, but it goes away after 2036. Progressed Uranus with Mars creates certain tension, which very soon will be over. So from the birth until 2027, Uranus is squaring Mars. So it could be about something, like actions which can be more radical, more sudden, more unexpected, or sometimes even, I would say, not so based on logic. It's more like, an impulse is coming and it needs to get out there. That's usually Uranus. Uranus harmonious aspect with Venus, this has been earlier during childhood. Uranus harmonious aspect with the Sun for a long time, you can see here, which can allow her to change herself, to change her individuality, to kind of like to evolve. Basically, this is an aspect which allows personal evolution. Uranus semi-square with the Moon. This can mean some kind of change on an emotional level, and especially on with the feminine energy. One of the interesting things we will see is that the feminine planets are triggered in different ways. Here, look what's happening here with major aspects. So from 2009 progress, Saturn has a sextile with Venus, but square with the Moon. And it doesn't change. It will remain like this. How can this be helpful also? First of all, for a woman, we can say that she needs to develop more the Venus qualities rather than the Moon qualities. The Moon qualities will be more stuck, on hold, blocked. But the Venus qualities will be supported, this more feminine, more like the lover archetype rather than the mother archetype. For example, if the person is considering to make a career change or something like this, we should always consider those aspects. For example, I wouldn't recommend her business related to the Moon, but business related to Venus, absolutely. So it's an interesting specific combination in this chart. Okay, so I really want to move to the chronological part because that's the most interesting part. And I know we've been together for a long time, but now we will put all of this together. Now we will see it all as a flow. So of course you can always look at those categories, you know, like, and see throughout the years, different life areas and so on. That's why I'm putting it there, so it's available, but also to see it in order is like something different. Let's just balance again for a moment because the mind can already be a bit overwhelmed, but with a little concentration and relaxation, we will continue with this flow. So just for a few seconds, let's just balance. Okay. So if you feel tired or overwhelmed from so much information, just try to relax your mind and just be present. Okay, so there will be a recording so you can rewatch it and see how it goes, but I don't want to, you know, cut the flow. So I want us to continue, do it all at once. So the real actual flow of life. The prenatal new moon is in Gemini. So the Gemini qualities are have already been planted to be able to see different things, to be able to combine different things, to be flexible, especially on a mental level. Those are qualities that were already there. As we said, during the whole period, the Neptune-Mars energy harmonious aspect will be there. So flexible will, taking action in an intuitive way, sensing certain things. This is like a theme during the whole life. For example, if Lily is considering some kind of career change or a new career direction. Generally, I would always keep in mind those things because, again, this is like the essence of the whole process. Yeah, here are also the long ones. Uranus squaring Mars, so until 2027, so until the age of 57, there could be something more, like uncontrollable in the will expression or the actions, or sometimes, like really sudden responses. After that, things become more harmonious. Like Mars doesn't have this, like electric energy from Uranus. But overall, for a significant part of her life, she has this square. So there is a need for some kind of dynamic, to this Mars is a really interesting planet in the chart. Pluto trining Mercury for a really long time. So the mind needs intensity. The mind needs to concentrate, to go deep on something, for researching, for studying something more spiritual, more, something that requires depth. Also for science, this could be a nice aspect. Pluto being on a gone, this is a karmic aspect with Mars. Here, this is about yeah, it's an interesting one. The balance between what the collective wants from me and what I want personally. And there could be a bit of a clash between those. It's like, I want to do something in my own way, but my role in the collective is kind of like also pushing me in a different direction. So this is a topic that may create such kind of a conflict, I would say. But until 2036, after that, this aspect is off. And the last one, it's for 9 years. So Uranus with Venus. So probably some kind of interesting dynamic environment earlier during the childhood. So the elements for a few years. So during the first 3 years, what is the dynamic we can see here? Less fire and more earth. So usually this means that early in life, we need to be, well, a bit more like grown-ups. Some kind of responsibilities, or sometimes those kids may need to help at home or to take care of other siblings, or usually there are some form of restrictions in the environment, either from the parents or the circumstances. Like that's the overall dynamic during the first 3 years we see here. 1972, so around the age of 2, we have the first square, the first quarter of the lunar cycle. The moon is in Virgo. This is showing a dynamic for the next 7 years after that. So this also indicates the Virgo phase of the lunar cycle, also indicates that the kid needs to learn to be more organized, or there could be some kind of criticism that she needs to handle with, or perfectionism also. So usually, this phase requires, demands from the person to be more the Virgo energy, more organized and so on. 1973, Uranus turns direct, so which means that during those first few years, Uranus has been stationary, which could be an indication for some kind of instability in the life, in the environment, or some kind of changes. Let's go back. Where is Uranus? In the natal chart, Uranus is in second on the cusp of third house. So it's possible that in the family, there might have been some kind of financial stuff, financial instability, or possibly some changes in the environment, the place where she was living, or something with siblings also, because it's on the cusp of third house. So that's usually a stressful energy. And for a kid, kids don't have that many options to, to channel this energy in a constructive way. Like you can't send the 3-year-old to study astrology, right? So Usually early in our life, such changes mean that there is some kind of stress. It could be with the parents. Uranus is in second house, so it might be also something with the health for a child. But usually, yeah, it's bringing some stress, some changes. At least we know that there is some kind of dynamic. After that, from the age of 3 to 5, see here the dynamic changes. So the earth energy is less, the air energy is more. So around the age of 4, 5, there is more dynamic and less restrictions. So something becomes lighter, or there could be more changes in the environment, or more social contacts with people. So usually this is a light energy around the age of 4 or 5. And also during the same time, Mercury is moving to Gemini. So see, that's how we start to connect those things. Try to keep your focus on the things that we get through. It's like, or we have already passed, so that we connect them. It's like we shouldn't forget, the previous indications we have already found. So we see here less earth energy, more air, and we also see Mercury moving to Gemini at the same time. So those things together mean that something changes faster in the environment, with more contacts, with more connection, with like the mind needs to become more, I will find the word now, kind of like to adapt and to switch faster between different things, kind of like to be more curious, more present, and faster. Here, around the age of 5, we have also Saturn in positive aspect with the Sun. So semi-sextile. So there is certain level of responsibility at the same time. So the energy is not too chaotic, because if the air energy is too much, and also there is no fire, it could be a period with, lots of variety, many ideas, but not so much action, which for a kid is also, not such a big problem. You're not supposed to build up businesses as a child, for example, but it's more about, like some ideas, but you don't do that much about it. But with this Saturn with the Sun, it can bring more like a background support to kind of like search for the practical side of things, or how we can make things more real, or basically it brings some kind of grounding energy, which can be very beneficial with this air, because air can be a bit too floating, a bit too, I'm in the clouds dreaming, but what happens around me, I don't pay attention that much. Here Saturn will bring a support for 20 years, not only to be, floating in imagining interesting things, but also in the background, there will be something practical in Lily that will ask her or invite her to think, okay, but what can you do with this? Or how can you use it in a practical way? Or a bit like keeping more connection to the earth. After that, what do we have here? The age of from 6 to 9. Here we start having more fire. So around the age of 8, usually this can bring more confidence, more the desire to take more action. And basically it's less water and more fire. So less of the dreaminess and fantasies and imagination, and more about taking action, more about, initiating things. So less from the dreams and more to the action. That's how it changes around this age. Saturn gets to the cusp of second house around the age of 6 to 8. Usually this could be something usually with the parents. Either they have some kind of issues, it could be with the father, or something changes in the family. Usually when it's so early in life and it's 10th house, it can't be the child's career, obviously. So we might suspect that something might have changed around this time, either with the father or generally in the family. The same time, the age of 7, Venus is moving to Leo. So she needs to learn to be more confident in terms of her emotional expression, in terms of her desires, the things that she wants. Overall, this is a more expressive, like feminine energy, which will be active until 2003. After that, from the age of 10 to 15, see here, we are a bit more, like organized. We move more, in a flow. Okay, the age of 10 to 15. What changes here? So first we have like the fire energies, as we already know, like fire energy won't be strongly expressed, especially during the first half of the period. The earth energy is getting less. The air a bit less, the water a bit more. So we are back to more focus on the intuition, on dreaming, on, feeling, on deeper experiences. So at the beginning, the mind dominates for air. At the end, the emotions dominate. So basically, those are the teenage years until the age of 15. So we can say that probably during puberty, this age, for Lily, this period has become more emotional. She became more sensitive, probably taking things more personally, kind of like going deeper into herself. After that, the next shift comes around the age of 20. So from 15, we get to, it's 10. Sorry, 10. The age of 10, we have a full moon phase. The moon is in Sagittarius. So around this time, the same time, she also needs to kind of like learn to look at life in a more positive way, to expand, to learn new things, maybe to see the world as something bigger. So usually those are, interesting shifts. Pay attention here. We have a trine with Jupiter. So the full moon is trining Jupiter, the ruler of the full moon. So that's a really harmonious connection, actually, for some kind of expansion, for learning to be more confident, to kind of like pursue the things that she wants, the things that she believes in. It's a really early age, so the age of 10 to 17, but it's, we are already conscious at this age. So this phase can provoke some kind of ambition, desire to achieve something, to pursue something, to do something significant. At the same time, there is a square with Pluto, which is not an easy aspect. So at the same time, it's like she may feel like she is doing it on her own. Like the collective or other people are not so supportive. It's more about, I have a goal or I have some desires, ambitions, like something is important for me, but others don't understand it. They don't support it, maybe don't appreciate it. So during this phase, so for 7 years, I would say maybe even longer, probably until the next new moon. The path feels a bit like, I'm following my own path and there is no one that really understands it as I understand it. So it's a bit of a following those dreams or ambitions on her own. Around the age of 12, the sun is moving to Cancer. So she is becoming more sensitive. She is becoming more potentially also dependent on the environment, on other people. It could be close connections or family connections, but also the importance of the feminine energy, the nurturing energy, I would say even the mother energy starts to develop. And she has 30 years to embrace those qualities. So from the age of from 1982 until 2014. Here, this is approximate. So, I mean, probably it's from the end of this year until the beginning of this year. What happens meanwhile? Around the age of 14, also Jupiter is turning direct. So see here, we have full moon phase in Sagittarius during 1980. We have a trine with Jupiter. This phase has a trine with Jupiter. And it happens while Jupiter is basically stationary, because 3-4 years later, Jupiter is turning direct. So there could be a phase of changing priorities, changing the things she believes in. It could be some process of, potential, not necessarily disappointment, because we have a trine with Jupiter. But it may feel like she stops valuing the things that she used to value, and she values new things. So those priorities are changing around, again, it's the teenage years. The same time, also around 1984, sixth house is changing signs, moving to Aquarius. So the everyday life changes. Probably her routines will change, and something becomes more dynamic. Something becomes more, it's like changing. It's more unpredictable. It can be more exciting also. So the daily routines are changing. And almost at the same time, so the age of 15, also the ascendant is moving to Virgo. So the type of behavior is changing. She needs to be more, in a way, more organized, more to focus more on details, to focus more on, punctuality. Those types of qualities are also becoming more accentuated. At the same time, fifth house is moving to Capricorn, so the same age, the age of 15. And usually those are the periods when, we may fall in love already, the age of 15. Usually many of us are already starting to fall in love, but her fifth house moves to Capricorn. So that's specific. And it can indicate usually two major options or two possibilities. Either it becomes difficult to fall in love and to open her heart, or if she falls in love, it's like something very stable, something that kind of like doesn't go away easily. But in every case, this tendency with, opening the heart will be a theme for this period from this age, 85 until 2019. At the same time, second house is also, Pluto is in conjunction with the cusp of second house. So the ascendant changes signs, fifth house changes signs, sixth house, and Pluto. Here, it could either be something related to health or food, or generally some kind of material things. So something can be transformed on this level. But I would say also the connection with the body. Something around this age has changed in terms of Lily's connection to the body. Okay, after that, from the age of 16 to the age of 19. So fire is becoming a little bit more for a while here. See, 17, 18. So probably a bit more confidence, a bit more initiatives, a bit more actions. The cardinal energy is also dominant during this age. We have 5 planets in cardinal signs. If we jump straight to the next thing, this next lunar phase, the moon is in Aries. So during this age, the qualities like braveness, initiatives, and taking risks become more important. So we can say, like roughly speaking, the first teenage years, let's say roughly from 10 to 15, are a bit more like she's softer, maybe more less confident, more emotional, more like introverted. After that, here from the age of 16, there is more impulse. Like with this lunar phase, we can expect that she has become more confident, braver, more like, I want to do it, I'm doing it. It's like more affirmative during the second, let's say, second part of the teenage years. So roughly speaking, that's the dynamic. Yeah, here we can see there are aspects with Mars, with Uranus. So yeah, some kind of rebel energy, I would say, is activated during this phase. So I suspect that during those first teenage years, she has been more like dependent, maybe softer, maybe easily influenced by others. And the second teenage years, she's turning more into the, I will do it my way. I'm more a bit like a rebel because Mars is activated, opposition with Uranus, here square with Mars. So she has had like, I suspect like a mission to prove something, and to do it differently, to do it in her own way and in a unique way. So it's clear how this dynamic changes during the teenage years. And the same time, so the age of 17, progressed Saturn starts having a minor challenging aspect with Uranus. Interesting. So after all, this energy is not so uncontrollable. So there is some kind of, inner, I would say, adult who knows where is the boundary or where are the boundaries. So it's not like completely, like doing something reckless. There is certain level, and this is a deep background energy. So it doesn't mean that the person is consciously aware of this, but on certain level they feel until where they can get to and which are the boundaries that should not be crossed. Like internally she has like a radar, which I think really helps with such a configuration. Neptune gets to the cusp of 4th house around the same time, so around the age of 17, 18. This could be a more emotional period in the family. Sometimes there could be events, that can also be more emotional, or some kind of either confusing situations, or something changes, or something is not necessarily clear. But on a more spiritual level, this is also important. This is a time when something that was really deep into her soul can kind of like surface, or she can get in touch with this. So for some kind of inner emotional process, this age is really important. Jupiter gets to the cusp of 3rd house almost at the same time. So see what happens here, the age of 18, 19. So it's possible that this is a relocation or a change in the place of living. 4th and 3rd house are activated strongly. So we can expect that maybe she has changed schools, or maybe it's the age of probably college, university, or moving related to this. And after that, the age of 19, Saturn has a semi-square with Mars. So this also brings the need to kind of like have some kind of control over the actions, the decisions, can bring some kind of hesitation also, or, not to take such huge risks. So something here. Look, that again, try to put this on top of everything we already explored. So there was a phase when she was less confident, probably, or maybe more emotional, more dependent. Then there is a phase when it's more like an independence rebel, like I will do it my way, I'm on my own, others don't understand me. But then Saturn starts, adding aspects. So something becomes more reasonable. So this phase of, something rebel, isn't too uncontrollable. There is some kind of, inner adult, which is observing what we can do, what we can test, what we shouldn't test as a boundary. And it's possible also that there might have been some kind of difficult lessons, which has made Lily also to be more cautious. So overall, this is a topic in her life too, the risks and not to be kind of like to learn to make those decisions with some kind of responsibility. Yeah, that's the thing. And we remember Saturn is the key planet in the chart. So those aspects here, progress Saturn with Uranus, progress Saturn with Mars, means that Saturn is kind of like keeping some kind of control. And pretty much at the same time, so the age of 19, fourth house is moving to Sagittarius. So most likely we can strongly suspect that around this age there has been a relocation or some kind of significant change in the family, in the environment, the home, the place where she lives. 10th house also changes, so it could be, for example, also something related to career, or maybe starting to work around this time, quite possible. But with the Gemini, probably it could be also a few things or something more related to communication, connection, and all of this. After that, from the age of 20 until 24, look, the cardinal energy increases. So from 4, it gets to 6, and the mutable is only 1. So we can say around this age, the main focus is you need to initiate processes and not watch so much for the response of the environment. This isn't a priority. So what other people will think or how they will respond, or she shouldn't define her own actions or directions based on the environment during this time. It should come from an inner impulse, not so focused on the adaptation. It's more like, coming from inside. The water energy increases significantly as well. So 5 planets, first 3, then 4, 4, then 5, 5. So the sensitivity increases, the intuition, probably the need for some kind of deeper connection with herself. Those things are, but generally, here we may suspect that this has been an emotionally kind of like rich period. And the first ingression here, around the age of 21, Mercury moves to Cancer. Also may indicate new type of connections, especially, for example, if a little bit earlier there has been a relocation or moving to a new place or a new environment. This ingression confirms this. And the new environment, the need is to connect more personally with this new environment. And I would say even, it could be, if something was missing from the family, something that she wasn't able to find or to receive in the family environment, during this period, she may try to find it more in connection to other people. It could be friends, it could be other people as well. Second house is moving to Libra, so it could be something related to the financial area, material resources, and all of this. Third house also changes. So see here how many changes we have within a few years. Third house is moving to Scorpio also. So look what a combination. 1991, Mercury moves in Cancer. 1992, third house moves to Scorpio. So two indications related to our contacts and communication and also our analytical processes. And they both move to water signs. So this can support more the creative thinking, the visual thinking, but also can make the person more subjective. And the communication with people needs to be more emotional and closer. But with Scorpio, the thing is that we can be also, Lily can be more maybe suspicious, like she needs to test people. Here, people kind of like need to prove themselves. So, yeah, and Mercury in Cancer is also kind of like more passive. So the communication here is becoming more passive with fewer people, but closer, and the need for deeper, more intense personal communication. Ninth house moves to Taurus, again, the age of, what is that, 22. So more stable goals, more concrete direction in life that she needs to follow. Around 94, so the age of 24, Mercury is in conjunction with the cusp of 11th house for 2 years. So something interesting may happen here with groups of people, with some kind of collectives, and so on. Here, we also need to consider that this is the last phase of the lunar cycle. So the new cycle comes at the age of 24. So a few years before that, the person is really focusing more on inner things, which is in alignment with what we see also here with dominant water. So we can say that those years here from 20 to 24, it doesn't feel like, the energy is so dynamic. The changes are more on an inner level, and it's more about completing old things, more about finishing something kind of like with the past. And the new beginning, the new process comes at around the age of 24. So around the age of 24, basically, this is the first new moon after she was born. So from certain perspective, we can say that until the age of 24, a significant part of the process of her life is somehow related to the past, because the new moon was before she was born. And around the age of 24, it's more like she really enters this life. It's more like something new really begins. It's like a process that starts now and will develop now. So that's a very important point. The new moon is in Cancer. Challenging aspect with Venus and with Neptune. Also with the moon. So on an emotional level, there could be some kind of important processes. There could be some kind of disappointment also, like, or something that can make her too sensitive and too emotional during this time. But overall, from 1994 for 30 years, we have this topic, Cancer, the sign of Cancer. And this is a new beginning. So things that we start around this time can have like a really long impact or can develop for a really long time. So around this age, whatever was her focus or she has started could have developed for decades after that. So a major, major influence. After that, the age of 25 until 32. What is the dynamic here? So a little bit less water, a little bit more air. That's the dynamic. So less water, more air. So a little bit more focus on communication, probably on interaction, not so much, deep focus on those inner feelings and emotions, because with 5 water planets, we are really triggered by our feelings and emotions and our inner world. So here the tendency is, let's maybe socialize a bit more. Let's connect a little bit more with the world. But overall, the cardinal energy keeps dominating here, as we can see. So this impulse that comes from within is really important. This like initiation. During 96, this is the age of 26. Uranus is in conjunction with the cusp of second house. So this could be either something related to health or something that transforms also the material stuff. Financially, it could be sometimes, especially if the career is not related to Uranus, it could be a period of unexpected changes, not necessarily difficult. It could be ups and downs, like unexpected wins, unexpected losses sometimes. Like this dynamic is pretty intense. Around 2002, this is the age of 32. The moon, we have a quarter phase. Basically, the moon is in Libra. So there is a significant focus on relationships, interactions with other people. If we look at the aspects, there is a harmonious aspect with the natal sun, with the natal moon. There is a square with Venus, so challenging aspect. But overall, the face is really active. Interesting. It's about, she needs to find the balance. And here, the balance might be between the sun, moon, and Venus, basically. So how do I focus on the things that I want? How do I also kind of like take care of myself, of my own needs? And the square with Venus may mean also that in the personal life, there might have been some kind of issues or at least some kind of changes. But overall, yeah, the personal life is really accentuated during this time. After that, from the age of 33 until the age of 39, here the earth energy becomes more accentuated. So the trend here is more responsibilities, more connection to the real world, more connection to the practical things. So especially, for example, if the person gets married or they have kids, this is a normal process. Like, kind of like reality is calling you, you should be more stable on the earth, keep your feet here. And there are different processes in the outside world which are kind of like allowing us to do this. So probably around this time, Lily needed to kind of like become more grounded, and life is again offering what's needed for that. The water energy is significantly less. So less influence from, like some kind of deep or irrational states, and more focus, more alignment with reality, with the concrete world. So that's a pretty drastic change here. From the age of 33 until the age of 39, we see this trend. And around the age of 33, Venus is moving to Virgo. So something can change in the personal life. When Venus moves to new signs, it could either be related to a new relationship, sometimes it could be marriage, sometimes it could be having kids. But even if it's not like an actual material event, our needs change. And you see here the dynamics. So from water, we switch to earth. So she will probably start valuing more the responsible partner, not so much the one who will, talk about beautiful things, big promises, will be very nice on pictures, but not necessarily there for you when you need them, when, it's about actually the everyday life. Her priorities change. And around this time, after this time, actually, after the age of 23, she will value more the partner who will, keep their promises, or who will do the things that you need them, or, who will help you in a practical way, not just to be nice on pictures and so on. So that's a very important inner shift, this Venus ingression around the age of 33. A little bit after that, the age of 35, Mercury is moving to Leo. So the type of communication also changes, the type of contacts. She's less dependent on the environment, on the opinion of other people, maybe opinions of family. And she focuses more on, what do I think? What do I want? What is my mind telling me? Mercury in Leo doesn't listen to others. That's why we say that this Mercury is weak, because it's listening more to the person, which isn't a bad thing. It's just a process we need to get through. So during this time, from 2005 until 2022, Lily needs to focus less on the environment and the thoughts of other people and those influences, and to focus more on her own logic, opinions, and desires. So interesting shift. 2009, there is a full moon. The moon is in Capricorn. So here, see the dynamic again. Try to feel where we are going, where this flow is going. Much more focus on practical things and stability. This is the age of 39. So the beginning of this period here, 33, was with more emotions, more sensitivity, less boundaries. And around 33, first Venus moves to Virgo, changes the emotional layer. Mercury moves to Leo, more logic, more what do I think, my opinion. And around 39, full moon in Capricorn. This is not an easy full moon, so it could either be related to some kind of losses, or sometimes, you need to become more grounded, more. Sometimes it's like you just consciously give up on something because you want to focus on something else. But the focus on practical things, material stuff, connection with reality is very, very accentuated during this, I would say, phase of her life, and after that as well for a while. This full moon has a square with Jupiter, so it might be a feeling, especially if she has felt unappreciated, this might have provoked her to give up on something. And that's actually a good thing. Neptune and Pluto have really nice aspects. So socially, this could have been an interesting transformative period. Trine with Mercury also. So yeah, something on a practical level changes. A really big one. 2009, the age of 39, Mars is moving to Leo. Up until then, Mars was in Cancer. So more or less the person is more hesitant. Mars in Cancer is not like a huge risk taker, very upfront. Mars in Leo is more confident, coming from a place of, what do I want? So this is a really, really important shift around the age of 39. Mars is moving to Leo. After that, she needs to learn to do things more when she's enthusiastic, when she's excited about something, when it will be more impressive, more important, Leo, shiny and all of that. So Mars feels much more comfortable in Leo than in Cancer. That's just the objective reality. And around this time, 2009, so at the same time, Saturn has a sextile with Venus. It's the beginning of this aspect, which will continue until the end of the period we are exploring. So on an emotional level, there is more stability, more rational understanding, I would say even more control. And very, very important, emotional maturity. That's something that becomes a topic in her life. For quite a while, there was a tendency for some kind of emotional immaturity. But here, starting from the Earth energy, so around 33, with the Venus ingression, the trend is that she becomes more grounded, less irrational and influenced by, some states, some emotions, some moods. And she is maturing on an emotional level. That's really interesting. The full moon in Capricorn supports the same process. We can definitely see this trend that she becomes emotionally more mature. Yeah. Okay, the age of 40. For the first time, look what happens after the process of emotional maturity, which will continue after that during the whole life. But once it was like really initiated, look what happens. The fire energy increases for the very first time in her life. So this brings more energy to kind of like do what I want, to be more impulsive, to also be more confident and to have more faith in the things that I do. And the fixed modality is also more accentuated during this time, which means that the focus is not so much on initiating things, this and that and the other thing. That's not the process. The process is more, okay, I have already started some things, or some things are already developing. My main focus now should be, how do I keep those? How do I stabilize them? Also, how do I make decision from a place of desires, from a place of, what do I really want? The fixed energy. So the focus is really different here. And from 2014, Saturn starts having a square with the moon, and this aspect will continue. So from one side, this is not a simple aspect, especially for, the moon energies. But if we put this on top of the things that we already found, this also goes in the same direction of emotional maturity. The moon archetype, it could be the mother archetype, but it's also the child archetype. And I think that in Lily's case, this is the ability to kind of like be less influenced from some kind of childish energy, or, like this moodiness of the moon. So yeah, learning to be more in control of those states. And here's something also really important, 2014, so the age of 42, the sun moves to Leo. So for a long period after that, for 30 years after that, the main focus is on building up confidence, building up what do I want, kind of like my own desires, like I'm becoming the queen in a way. That's what she needs to embrace during this period. She becoming a queen. She becoming the main cheerleader for herself. She even possibly taking some kind of leading positions. Keep in mind that Mars is already in Leo. So we saw, when was that? A few years earlier. Mars is already in Leo from 2009. And around 2014, so 5 years later, the sun is also going there. So the two fire planets, two masculine planets, are moving in Leo. So this becomes a much more, phase when she can be more affirmative, more independent in a way, less dependent from her own moods, less dependent from her inner child, less dependent from the environment, and more coming from a place of what do I want, and learning to be sort of a leader. It's not necessarily always like, oh, you need to lead thousands of people. First of all, you need to become a leader of yourself. And after that, if there is a potential, of course, this may work as kind of like leading others as well. But that's a very, very important shift. At the same time, Saturn gets to the cusp of ninth house. So at the same time when the sun moves to Leo, Saturn gets to the cusp of ninth house. So something changes in terms of her goals, of her direction in life, of her beliefs as well, significantly around this time. So around the age of, 44, 45. Shortly after that, or pretty much basically the same time, 2015, Uranus has a quintile and a half with the sun. So imagine this combination. Progressed sun is moving in Leo, and at the same time, progressed Uranus start having a creative aspect with the sun. So this is a very different dynamic. It's more about being spontaneous, but not from a place of how the moon would do it, like irrational, or, because I'm upset, I will do this, or, this type of childish, immature behavior. It's not this type of spontaneous energy. It's more about a sign of liberation and freedom. So it's not irrational, reckless behavior. It's more about, I'm spontaneous because I'm free and confident, not because I'm an immature child and I want to prove to you that, I will do it because I want. That's not the type of motivation she has. So yeah, really interesting. Here we can feel like the ego is growing. The ego is becoming more mature, and there is more liberation and freedom that comes with this. Moving on from the age of 46 until 52. A little bit less fire and more earth. So the connection to the earth, the connection to the ground is very important. Here we can see also at the very beginning, Pluto is in conjunction with the ascendant, so around the age of 46. So something very transformative around this time, for sure, at least as an inner process is happening. The person changes on a very deep level in terms of, how she expresses what she is doing, how she relates to the world. And yeah, the focus is, again, more practical things, more groundedness, more connection to reality. See how the next lunar phase is also in alignment with this. So 2016, there is a lunar phase in Taurus. So more practical things, more focus on material things. It could be money, it could be stability. This is becoming a priority. Here we have a square with Mars. Here we have a sextile with Mars. So something changes on the level of, yeah, the will, like how the actions she takes, basically. Something changes here. The moon Taurus phase means that also she needs to be more patient. She gets into a phase that she needs to focus more on stability, comfort, not to rush for things, not to be impatient, but it's more like, to keep things, to nurture them, to take care of them. It could be about, the body also. Most likely the relationship, with the body has changed around this time because Pluto is on the ascendant and there is a moon phase in Taurus. So yeah, something on this level. From 2017, Pluto has an aspect with Jupiter, harmonious aspect that will continue until the end of the period. So this can make the goals more, I would say, like global or general or bigger. But generally also it's a really long process of transformation of her values, her beliefs, her priorities, all of that. So as we can see, it's for decades. So it's a deep process that will keep unfolding. Now we get to the next phase of changes of cusps of houses. That's just the dynamic of the chart. It's not always like this, but in Lily's chart, it's like the cusps of the houses change their signs very close to each other. So there is a long period without changes of the houses. And then for a short time, all of them change. So that's something specific about this particular chart. So from 2018, Lily gets into such a phase. First, sixth house moves to Pisces, which can change something in terms of the work environment, dynamic, more kind of like emotional connection to the processes at her work, more sensitivity in this direction. Fifth house moves to Aquarius around 2019. Remember, before that, it was in Capricorn. So here, something opens up on an emotional level. And this is very close to the Pluto conjunction with the ascendant. So some kind of process that kind of like liberates the heart, that can open the heart, that can allow her to have more freedom in terms of creative expression, in terms of having joy, maybe even romantic experiences, maybe even kids. So this dynamic is changing. And 11th house moves to Leo. So her role in some kind of social context may change as well. Like she may get more into some kind of leading position, or at least she will be less influenced by other people and collectives. So one thing is she will kind of like make her own mind, opinions based on her own desires and thoughts. But it's also possible that she may have more impact on others after that. Friends, groups, collectives, communities, all of that. Jupiter positive aspect with Neptune from 2020. So see here, Jupiter is quite active and the outer planets. So those are some processes on a subconscious level, I would say, and something that this one in particular could be related to faith or beliefs, or opening more like a different level of the mind, which is not so rational. It's this mind that kind of like, sees or knows things, and they're not necessarily expressed with words. So it's, it's an interesting one. 2022, 2023, Neptune gets to the cusp of third house. So something either related to communication, contacts with people, friendships, but also her plans, her thoughts, all of that. It can trigger some kind of new interest, some kind of, different focuses. At the same time, the ascendant moves to Libra and seventh house to Aries. So in the area of relationships, something may change, how she expresses. As we talked about this earlier, this is the time when I would recommend the person to focus more on their image, their style, how they present themselves. So it should be more through the feminine energy, more through the Libra energy. And overall, the need to find harmony, to find balance becomes higher. The same time, 2022, fourth house is moving to Capricorn. So see, this is very interesting. So the two cardinal axes, first 7 and fourth 10, are changing signs at the same time during 2022. So this is an indication that something pivotal is changing in the life of the person, and something that will unfold for a long time. At home, there needs to be more stability, more groundedness, again, like something more concrete. Work-wise as well. Work-wise, there can also be some kind of changes. And this could be a work that is closer to her heart, closer to what she wants. Those are priorities for decades after that. Mercury also changes signs. Mercury moves to Virgo, so there is a high chance that there has been either a possibility for relocation or changing jobs or moving, changing the social environment around this time. So plus minus 22, the year 22. During 23, Jupiter gets in conjunction to with second house, so financially, this may bring some kind of benefits, something can materialize. Yeah. The 10th house ingression in Cancer usually doesn't bring like a huge ambition or some kind of really high social status, but it's more like something fulfilling. So with Jupiter on the cusp of second house, also, it's like something on a material level probably can be more fulfilling. But keep in mind that here, during those years, we are in the last phase of the lunar cycle. So in 2023, there is a new moon in Leo. So here comes a big new shift. So basically, this is the age of 53. And all of those changes that were building up before that can be even more expressed around this time, around the age of 53. Let's see first here quickly the dynamic. What is the dynamic? So we are still here in the strongest fire period during the whole life. 3, 2, back to 3 again. The water is much less. So we can say that this is a phase when she needs to take action and not so much to, fantasize or dream about things or, live so much in her inside world, especially after the new moon, basically after 2023, and which is basically right now. We are getting to nowadays. And now we understand why I chose her for an example, like without looking at her chart, but we can see that she's just in a pivotal transformative point. So she needed this reading. She needs to understand this perspective that she gets into a really active phase right now. And it's not so much about living in her inner world, because in the past few years, it's possible that she might have been more into her inner world. Things are not so active on the outside level, or it takes a while, or, there has been a dynamic. We saw that there has been a dynamic, but probably it's not so clear where she goes. With this new moon last year in Leo, it's like the energy goes in a new direction and it's more external. It's more in the outside world. Look here, the new moon is in conjunction with her natal Mars. No, it's not the natal Mars, sorry, it's the progressed Mars, but it's still Mars. So the Sun and Mars, the two masculine planets, are joining together in Leo, and the new moon activates it. So for the next 30 years from now on, for Lily, this is a major topic. Her own will, her own desires, and some kind of courage and braveness. This will be something really, important. There are karmic aspects with Jupiter and Saturn. So in the social environment, there needs to be some kind of readjustments. So yeah, this is not so kind of like one-sided. During 25, 26, Mercury gets to the cusp of 12th house. This can activate some kind of interesting processes of insights or self-analysis also. Yeah, she might be able to understand some kind of hidden layers or motivations or things that she wasn't able to understand in herself during this process. Third house also ingresses in Sagittarius during 2025, which can open her more to communication, more contacts. So the contacts increase for sure around 25. Probably after the new moon as well, but especially around 25, third house moves to Scorpio to Sagittarius. So she will become more open with more contacts, with more people around her, maybe even communicating with more people with maybe higher status or people who can support her, who can teach her something. So the contacts are more. Second house moves to Scorpio. So financial changes are also, see how it happens, basically all very closely, very intensely. So second house changes to Scorpio. So her relationship with material stuff will change. She may get more attached to them. She may see them from a different perspective. Generally, yeah, the sources of income may also change around this time. And during 2029, Uranus gets to the ascendant. So here we are getting to another phase of really important changes. What is this age? 59? Yeah, 59. This is a little bit after also the second Saturn return in transits. But in progressions, Uranus is getting to her ascendant. So some process of liberation, some pivotal personal changes, doing things in a new way, more freedom. And look also, at the same time, Venus is moving to Libra, the same age, same years. Venus moves to Virgo to Libra. Virgo is not a comfortable sign for Venus. Libra is the most comfortable sign for Venus. So some kind of emotional liberation, and she will allow herself to be more herself. That's the direction she should follow. And emotionally, this may feel like a relief, like she can allow herself to do the things that she loves. In relationships, there could be important changes in partnerships, in her love life. If creative expression is a topic, then also. The only thing is that Neptune is turning direct at the same time, which means that Neptune is stationary. So she needs to also release some kind of potential illusions or things that are, the Neptune stuff that we don't understand so clearly. So in every case, we can say that those few years, so from 29 until 31, the years of 29 until 31, emotionally, the period is very intense. Uranus on the ascendant, Venus moves to a new sign, Neptune turns direct. So the emotional intensity is really high, and there may not be enough clarity right away, but the beginning of the process is constructive and is leading her in a, I would say, better direction. I don't like those labels again, but here we should say it, because Neptune is turning direct. Yeah, at the very time of the shift, it's still messy and unclear. With Uranus, you also don't know necessarily, things, but its dynamic is it's changing. And most importantly, Venus moves to Libra for almost 30 years, almost. Venus coming back home to Libra. So interesting phase. During 32, there is a moon phase in Scorpio. The Scorpio moon also means that she needs to let go of something. She needs to release something. Something from the past. It also adds some kind of intensity. But yeah, the most important is some kind of attachments that need to be released with the Scorpio moon. After that, Mercury enters the shadow zone around 2032. This doesn't mean that we notice this, but she enters a period that after that could be like revisited. And because this is happening more like later in the second half of the life, we can't see like the whole face of Mercury. So this is, we can say from a different perspective, that here Lily gets into a phase, a period, which won't be completed during this life. It will be more like planting some kind of seeds that she will keep working on probably in other lives. And, it's like a long path. So that's interesting. From the age of 64 until 74, the earth energy is the strongest one. The others are pretty balanced. So here, the air is more accentuated for a while, but overall, the strongest one is the earth energy. So more groundedness, more practical things, more connection, focus on material results. Overall, that's the tendency. Here we have a few more kind of like emotional years. 69, what is that? 69 through 70. But overall, yeah, the earth energy is the most dominant and the fixed one, really strong. So it's more about, keeping what I have, taking care of this, stable energy. During 2035, progressed Jupiter with Pluto, a harmonious aspect. So also some kind of deep transformation and different goals during this time. The most important one, 2037, Jupiter moves to a new sign, which is happening only once in her lifetime. It doesn't happen to everyone, so it's a pretty big deal. And it may show like the desires, the goals are moving more towards, her deepest desires or things that she can explore. Like she may focus more on some kind of values or like exploring some kind of values or what she really believes in. Like, in this area, she's going deeper because Scorpio is a deeper sign. Here we have a full moon in Aquarius. That's what the age of 68. Full moon in Aquarius, which means that there could be some kind of liberation, also something new, something more extraordinary, like more dynamic. I would say untypical dynamic probably for most of us around this age. But Aquarius means that, things can be more interesting than you can expect. Trine with Jupiter, trine with the natal Jupiter. Yeah, opposition with the moon. So yeah, it's focusing more on her goals or something that she dreams about, or yeah, going in this direction. Here starts the semi-square with the moon, so 2040. But we already found that the moon is not like a main priority. Venus is more accentuated during her life. I mean, in terms of dynamic. Mars gets to the cusp of 11th house and will stay there for 15 years. So This is the age of 71. Actually, around this age, we can see that Lily can be socially very active because the lunar phase is in Aquarius around this age. And also for 15 years, Mars will be in conjunction with the cusp of 11th house. So we may strongly suspect some kind of intense, dynamic, collective interaction or work with people or communication or something like that, which is also quite interesting. Here from 75 to 80, a bit more fire, but overall the earth is still the same. So the dynamic is like in this age, we see that the earth energy seems to be the most accentuated. So more focus on practical things, more patience, more stability. Those are the main priorities. Until 85, it's the same thing pretty much. Air is becoming a bit more. So I would say a social lady for this age. Why not, of course. We are very close to the finish line, so bear with me. 2048, 49, Pluto gets to the cusp of 12th house. Not necessarily a simple progression, but it could be also related to some kind of very deep transformations of the psyche. So especially for someone who is working, with some kind of transformations or some kind of personal work, or it can bring a special type of kind of like realizations and insights. Jupiter centagon with Venus for 10, 11 years. This can bring some kind of reevaluation of my values and the social values, like something on this level can change. The second square of the lunar cycle, 2045, is in Gemini. So we still have this focus of communication. So later in her life, in her 80s, 90s, hopefully, maybe more, the tendency is that the communication becomes more accentuated. The contact with other people is more, because also this lunar phase is in Gemini. And opposition with Neptune here. So yeah, with the moon. So more focus on practical, concrete things rather than some kind of, illusions, unrealistic things. 2045, the sun is moving to Virgo. So 45. That's the age of 75. The sun moves to Virgo. So this is a big one. This is one of the really important ones, which defines her main focus. So from Leo, she gets to Virgo. So more about the practical things. It could be more about serving other people. It could be, for example, at this age, we may take care of our grandkids, let's say, or it could be other people, or something on this level, like to take care becomes more important. Like some kind of shiny, big, impressive things are no longer that interesting, It's more about, simplicity becomes actually more valuable. The person needs less things. The person can enjoy, like smaller things. So it's finding the beauty in the details and the smaller things. Plus, we know that in her natal chart, Virgo is very accentuated. She has the South Node in Virgo. So she might be coming back to something that it's like, I will try to explain this energy. In a way, it feels like coming back home. It's like, you went on a journey and you learned new things, but then you brought all of those new things, like your full basket back home, where you also have some things, where some things are waiting for you. They are expecting you. So, yeah, it may feel like, in a way, getting closer to something from the past also. Mercury makes another conjunction with, or no, it's the first time Mercury gets to 12th house. So yeah, for some kind of inner processes, some kind of, I would say, self-realization, kind of like insights. Mercury on 12th house can bring this. But Mercury also turns retrograde, 2051. So here we may see that the focus becomes more internal. That's the age of 81, with the ingression of the sun, basically. From here, the focus becomes more internal, the first thing, but also Mercury turning retrograde. It's like the person doesn't need so much social contacts or interactions. It's more about, something inside of me. What do I think? How do I feel? Like, those are more important things. So the person needs less interaction from other people, but that in a way I see it as also less dependence on others, like less, what do other people think, especially after the sun moves out of Leo. The sun in Leo needs recognition, needs to be impressive, needs to be acknowledged. When the planets move to Virgo and Mercury turns retrograde, it's like, those external things are no longer that important. It's like I'm kind of free from that. That's how it can feel. Saturn gets to the cusp of 8th house around 2051-53, so that's an intense period. Could be either transformative or in a way difficult, or there could be some issues with financial things, like health needs to be taken care of around this time. So not an easy one. Then 6th house moves to a new sign. So something in the everyday life can change, in the everyday dynamic. Almost at the same time, again, notice that we get to another phase of house changes. They just happen very close to each other. So in the personal life, things can change, or the hobbies, or what she wants, because 5th house is changing. And then another new moon during 2053. Full moon new moon in Virgo, which puts the beginning of another cycle. And it's interesting that this new moon is very close to her south node. So as I told you, like, she is kind of like bringing some kind of experience back, and this thing will be developed in the future. So this process is not ending because Mercury is retrograde, because the new moon is in Virgo, and will keep, developing after that. So, and probably my favorite part, Venus gets to the ascendant during 2055 and will stay there until the end of the period we are exploring. So until the age of 100, Venus will be on the ascendant. So from 85, after that, for a really long time, Venus will be on the ascendant. And actually, they will be together even with Jupiter at a certain point. Which means that this can have a really interesting kind of like impact, interesting kind of like a different connection with herself. So imagine Venus on your ascendant for many years. It's the ability to understand yourself deeper on an emotional level, to feel more things, to enjoy more things. So that's a really, really harmonious progression. 4th and 10th house are changing also, so in Aquarius and Leo. So the home environment may change, the atmosphere there as well. We are very close. So here, next phase, we have almost no fire. Earth dominates. So it's this trend remains. So it's not so much about initiating things, it's more about keeping the stability, but also pay attention. The mutable energy is also accentuated. So at this age, at this point, it becomes more important to focus on the environment, to be in alignment with the environment, to adapt to the environment. So it starts even earlier. So from the 80s, from the age of 80, a little bit, but yeah, more from here 86 and so on. So that changes, but the earth energy is still strong. So the focus on practical things and connection to reality, connection to the material world. Mars moves to Virgo here, which can be, can make the actions or the decisions of the person more consistent, more stable, more focused on the practical things, less impulsive, and so on. Jupiter has a quintile with the moon, so this is emotionally a harmonious aspect. Neptune gets to the cusp of 12th. This is the age of 88, 89. Neptune in 12th house could either be some kind of mental confusion or insights or visions or deeper understanding, or potentially could be psychological healing as well. So yeah. 2059, Venus moves to Scorpio. So emotionally, this is an intense ingression. It's not an easy one objectively. So the emotions become more stable, but also deeper, more dramatic. Yeah, it's like usually some kind of, intense transformation. 3rd house is also changing signs, so the environment may change in Capricorn, so less contacts with people, but we already saw that this is a trend, that this is more like internal. And the ascendant is changing also around the age of 89. So overall, how the person expresses change, the person can be more serious, more focused, more committed. Jupiter with Uranus here. Those are not necessarily easy to rationalize, but something more on a subconscious level can be transformed. Uranus also gets to the cusp of 12th house. So see how influenced, how triggered 12th house is during, I would say, the last few decades. So many planets go to the cusp of 12th. So something on a very deep psychological level is changing. This could be some kind of liberation also from some kind of, basically something from the past. Some kind of past experience is processed in a new way. That's a theme, I would say, in the whole life, during the whole life. Here, 2nd house also changes, which could be on a material level, the connection with material stuff, finances, with the body, with energy as well. One more phase of the moon in Sagittarius, square of the lunar cycle. This is actually a harmonious one. So, but keeping in mind the age, but we don't know, like the person might be very active. There are people who are very active at the age of 91. So actually with the moon phase in Sagittarius, I wouldn't be surprised if, she has some kind of interest or things that are important. Yes, they are also internal. They could be more practical because the sun is in Virgo, but there is something that is keeping her interested, keeping her kind of like, yeah, even motivated to do something. Here, progress Jupiter trining the natal Mars. Generally, this is an aspect which brings a lot of energy. Again, considering the age 92, we can't predict the actual external form, but if she is in a good physical shape, taking care of her body, this aspect can bring a lot of energy, even on a physical level. So, yeah, that's interesting. The last part of the period we are exploring until the age of 100, the earth energy still dominates. Fire almost missing. Fixed and mutable dominant also. So connection to the earth reality, feet on the ground, but a little bit more influence also from the feelings, the emotions. It's a bit like a balance between the inner and the outer world, I would say. And Jupiter gets to the ascendant around the age of 93, together with Venus there. So I hope that Lily will be able to tell us one day what this will be, because it sounds amazing. Jupiter and Venus in conjunction on the ascendant. Yes, it's later in life, but we don't know what will be possible decades from now, in what kind of shape we will be. So there is a really good chance for something, quite interesting. One more phase here of the lunar cycle at the age of 98 in Pisces. So here it's difficult to really, interpret this, but some kind of, inner focus on inner priorities, emotional understanding, feeling more connected to, everyone else, to the world. There is a trine with Venus, sextile with Mercury, so sextile with Saturn. So it's more on an emotional level, I would say. And so on. So we don't know how many years after that. With that, I will stop. Congratulations to those who made it. Like, you are heroes. As you can see, it's a long process. So, but if we want to explore 100 years from our life, first of all, it's possible, and you can see this dynamic. So I would recommend first going through the categories and then doing this in a timeline, so you can see how they overlap, what comes after what, and then you can see where all of this is going. And yeah, I think it's an amazing process to explore this. Thank you so much for your time. We might do another session for questions, for example, because I think that for now it's already too much energy. We need to process this. I think for now that's fine. But if you are interested, we can just pick another time, another day, and we can discuss this. If you have questions, you can ask them, think about them, and all of this. Okay. And of course, if you want help with such analysis, you can get such a interpretation for your own chart. This is something new I haven't offered before. As you can see, it's a lot of work, but it's totally worth it because you see where you are going and how to get in alignment and all of this. So that's something new I will be working on and I will be doing. Such kind of like a life study of, how the energy develops. So thank you so much. Yes, there will be a recording. I will send an email. I will show you the recording and yeah, you will see it. So see you next time. Think about your own flow of life and explore it. And most importantly, live it. Fall in love with your own life and live it. That's how I want to leave you for now.